is yours, Muhammad. Thank you so much for being with us today.
So much, Hannah. And welcome everybody to today's workshop. It's a great privilege that I come and I present this to you today. So I know you've all been waiting, so let's get started. So today's program workshop is about technology design and programming. I'm hoping to take you through this step by step. If you do have any questions, please either write them in the chat box or wait to the end, and I'll do my best to answer them and get back to you in due course. Now, before we begin, I'd like to take you through the 5 different parts of our workshop today. So we have a brief introduction about myself and about the course in general, what you're going to be taking away, the skills and experience which you will be attaining from this, and also this is being designed as an interactive workshop. So hopefully either you can listen or you can take part. I recommend you do take part to get the most value out of it possible. We'll be looking at interfaces and user experience, understanding them and why they're so important, the control mechanisms and the navigation systems which enable us to use apps and websites in a day-to-day basis. Finally, we'll be looking at languages and different forms of AI on a very brief entry level, just to give you enough knowledge and ability to get ahead in the workspace. Finally, we'll be looking at somewhere which I have a, a bit of excitement and experience behind, which is mixed realities. And this is the future of framework. This is something that I'm really excited about, and I'm sure that you all will be using it in the very near future if you're not creating it. Now, briefly just touching on myself. Personally, I'm very passionate about creating software which is not only meaningful, but it's fun as well in its features and its functions. Now, through this, I have done a range of jobs from consultancy, creative design, working in media, advertising, helping companies conceptualize and put together different forms of strategy as a mentor and a consultant. Finally, I always like to say the customer is the most important part in any business, and the AI working the program as well. Now that's enough about me, and let's talk about the program. So this is technology design and introduction to programming as a whole. I'm not going to be teaching you programming, but I'm going to be telling you the steps and ways and things that you should be thinking about before you even consider putting any algorithms into place. Now, this program will give you insights on strategies, theories, and how to approach this, whether you want to be a freelancer or an employee within someone's company. A freelancer could be a consultant or a remote worker doing programming and designing for different companies. This is an interactive workshop again, so if you do have a pen and paper to hand, I would advise that you get it and you get ready, or if you have something to write on, it just gives you the ability to be part of this program and really get involved in and learn through trial and error, which is the most important way of learning. Now, I'm going to be doing this, there's 2 parts to it. So I'm going to be asking you to think of your own software, which you'd like to create. Secondly, we're going to be using some existing platforms, and we're going to be looking at the functions and features that are inside of it in order to best understand how they work and how we can perform them as a designer or developer. Now, in the chat box, I know you're all very active already, but if you could just do for me a favor, I would like to see which one among you are a developer. Please press 1, whether that's full stack, front end, back end, SQL. If you have them bits of knowledge, please press 1. If you have some skills of knowledge, whether that's wireframing, prototyping, or just very basic system design, please press 2. But if you're a student and you're learning, please press 3 so that I can know what level you're at, and then it gives me the ability to really understand where you are and a bit more about yourselves.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, Muhammad. I think the sound is a little low.
Okay.
Yeah. If you can fix that. Yeah.
No problem. Is that any better for you now? Are you able to hear me a bit better now? Is that okay?
Yeah, I can hear you with my headphones. Yeah, everyone's, yeah, we got one yes. Tell us if you can hear him well, thank you. Yes,
Hello? Can you
now
hopefully
it's
hear
fine.
me okay?
Amazing. So as he said, if you are one of the 1, 2, 3, can you please write where you think you are?
Thank you, everybody. And thank you for your patience as well. Any interruptions, anything that you don't understand or my volume's low, please just tell me so that I can really, enable you to get as much value as possible. I don't want to be going too silent throughout this workshop.
Okay, thank you. Are you able to see the chat?
I'm not able to pop out because I don't want to change screen. So if you could just let me know how many.
Yeah. We got a lot of 3. We got a lot of 3, then okay. 2 in the second place, and then 1, I think, in the third place. Can you correct me, please, if I'm wrong? My friends from the participants. As I observed, we got a lot of 3, then 2, then 1. Yes.
Okay, that's no problem. And if anybody is able to take part in the workshop or would like to be interactive with it, if you can just press the number 4 now, so I know whether or not to slow down at the interactive part or to whether just go through it at a steady speed. So if you are taking part in the interactive part, please press 4 now, so I know.
We got 1-4.
1-4. Okay, no problem. That's fine. Excellent. At least one person's gonna.
Maybe, yeah, they said they didn't hear. Can you please reply?
Oh, sure. So if you want to take part in the workshop, please press number 4 now so that I can slow down when we're doing the course.
Of course, yes. Big 4.
A big 4. Wonderful. Okay, great. So some of the benefits of this course. This course is designed for you to understand the basic principles of user interface and experience with guidance of theories in design. I will go into this further. Don't worry, it's not as complex as it sounds. Secondly, we'll be looking at some of the pros and cons of websites and applications. Lastly, we'll be touching on the failure points in technology. Some apps and programs, websites that you go on, they're really effective. That's because the design team and the development team have mastered what are the failure points, things that can go wrong, and they've done their best to avoid them or minimize the risks. Now, the next step in this, and what I'm hoping that everybody will be taking away, is how to the different types of languages and prototype tools that you can use. So you don't need to ideally understand how to code fully. You can go on prototype toolkits and you can create softwares and applications on there, then give them to developers. This is something that's been taking place a lot now. Secondly, if you are looking for a job as a programmer or as a UI UX, that's a user interface or a user experience designer, this will give you a lot of help. Finally, the business of software. So I think it's absolutely great us telling you about the different ways of making software and the things to consider. But I also think it's very important that we understand why for the future, this is very important as a business and it can sustain you and others as a company. And I would encourage people to think about this and look at it as well. Now, let's get into it, the planning. So, as part of this interactive workshop, I would like you to consider the following. If you were able to create any type of software, what would you create? Now, this doesn't have to be a hard thing. I've put 4 down already. So it could be a socializing app such as Facebook or Instagram and so on, an e-commerce store, or an improvement app, an app to help people get fit, to time manage, to be aware of business and opportunities in the market. Finally, it could be a virtual coaching or learning app, such as Khan's Academy. If you don't want to think of one of those and you want to think of your own, please go ahead and do so. When the people who are finished doing the interactive part, please press number 4. Again, I appreciate any answers, any questions, and I'll give you the answers to the best of my ability at the end of this course. Now, with the app that you have chosen, there are different types of formats that you can use. This could be a website, a web-based application. So this is a website, which is also an app as well. We could have an iOS app. So this is an app for the Apple Store. Finally, we could have an Android app. This would go on the Play Store. Some companies, most of the big companies, they're on all of them. Personally, I like to start on a website, make it a web-based application. Then I would move on to making an Android and then an iOS app. That's the order that I would personally take when creating any form of software. Now, some of the principles of any platform, they comprise of 3 main parts. This is a front end, a back end, and the data. So the data can be used in the database, or it could also be used as enhancing the performance of any machine learning software or AI to help any functions or features with the user experience as it's moving on. Now, things to consider when you're creating any form of program. It should always be solution-based. If you're making a program, I can't emphasize it enough, you need to know what the problem that you're solving is, and you need to focus on the solution. You need to be user-centric. Jeff Bezos at Amazon has designed Amazon, and all the features and functions are user-centric and focused on the customer's needs and ensuring that the customer has the best customer journey from what they're doing. Finally, you need to focus on the core functionality of any device. So if it's an Android device, Apple device, PC device, you need to understand what this is, and you need to ensure that anything that you're putting in there, you understand how the phone, the tablet, the PC works, and then work towards it. Secondly, you need to create clear guidelines about what is possible for the user when accessing your program. And lastly, it's identifying the user journey through designing your system. Make it fun and make it interactive. Don't make things just for the sake of it. If you could make any sort of program and you wanted other people to use it, why would they use it? These are the sorts of things that you have to think about when doing it. When we looked at virtual reality, we were considering how do we make this fun? So we looked at the human and we said, let people personalize themselves and put their own data in, and then they can explore with themselves through personalization. This is something that it doesn't seem very important, but trust me, this is probably the most important thing that I'm going to be covering today. Now, when we're doing any programming, before we even get there, I would always say, look at these 4 key steps. Who are your competitors? Can you do a SWOT analysis on them or a PESTEL analysis? Who are your customers? Can you do any customer research on them? What's the size of the market? Who are they? How much do they spend? What other apps are they using? The customer persona, what brands do they like? What's their age group? What's their average income? Branding. So any company that you create or you're doing consultancy for, they will have a set of branding with their guidelines. You're going to use this, and this is going to be the look, color, and feel of the brand in the application or the website as a whole. Now, we're going to jump in and we're going to start with some open and closed thinking. This is going to support us through getting our app and our website designed with intelligence. So there's 7 parts to this. So first of all, we need to prepare ourselves. We need to look at the problem at hand. So for example, I'm going to say we're looking at a sports application. Now we're going to prepare. We're going to expand on the problem space. So we're going to discover, okay, we can do virtual coaching. We can do interactive sessions. We can do video calling. We can have the coaches record the sessions and put it on the application so that users can look at it. We're also going to look at various things such as players recording themselves and putting it on there for coaches to review. That's great. Now let's define it. Let's close that down and narrow it down. And once we've done that, we can then say, okay, we've found all the possibilities and ideas through discovery stage. Let's narrow that down into tangible step-by-step processes in order for us to get a better idea of what the core functionality of the application is going to be. So we've decided that it's going to be a virtual coaching application. Now let's look at the design space. So we say we want all these videos and audio and so on and so forth. That's fantastic. We're validating it. Okay, we don't have the ability to put videos, sound, audio on there because we don't have the database storage and we need to install cloud. And maybe there's other problems as size and resolution. So now we need to narrow this down until we get to the point where we're happy with making something that's called a MVP, a minimum viable product, or a prototype. I'm going to go into this further. And again, if you have any questions or you don't understand this, I will go into it a bit more, whether it be after the workshop or at a later date. Now, divergent thinking, this is open thinking. If you are doing the interactive part, I want you now to write down what problem are you trying to solve. So with the virtual coaching app, we're trying to make coaching accessible for all users, whether it be in a COVID quarantine situation or whether it be in a post-COVID marketplace. Can the problem be expressed in a simple question? Make coaching available virtually. So that's we're answering the question here. Who are we seeking the platform for? It's the players and the coaches. So now we have a two-way platform for coaches and players. Now moving on from here, we have we're solving the user's problem with this platform. How are we doing this? We're doing this with virtually coaching. And how would it work? It would work by using a Zoom-like plugin onto the platform, which enables users to see, record, and also stream other videos. How do we make the most of the device's capability? So you can look at what is the capability of any device. For example, if it's a phone and it's not working online, can we download the videos and so on beforehand, or is it able to connect to Wi-Fi? Finally, we can do much more than just solve an existing problem. For example, we can add an e-commerce market on there so we can sell basketball or football or cricket merchandise. And we can also do a chat box where people can talk, maybe a social link where people can link up and talk to each other and form teams together. Can we make a demo or a prototype of this version? What form could this prototype or demo take? Now, I know I've gone through this very quickly. Usually we would sit down and we would take the time to map out and write out each one of these and the answers for each one. Again, if you do have any questions on this, please write in the chat box and I'll do my best to answer it as and when I can. Now, after we've completed this, we're going to look at the hierarchy of user needs. There are four key parts to this. We have the product vision board, mobile business canvas model, value proposition canvas, and the empathy map. For the sake of today, I'm just going to look at the product vision board. I would advise that you take note of these and that in your own time, you go ahead and you look at them and you review them to understand them, as this is critical to any form of consultancy or freelance work as a designer, as a consultant, or as an individual looking to create the next app or website, which will add great value to users and businesses alike. So let's talk about the product vision board. Now, I want you to take the time to think about this. If you're not taking part in the interactive part, I just want you to think about this as a socializing app, for example, say Facebook. So what do you think Facebook's vision is? What was the purpose of them creating Facebook? Who were their target audience? What are the needs of the customer? Why does it benefit them? What is the product? So it's a website or an application. And what are the business goals? Is that to sell add-ons? Is that to generate data? What do you think they are? Okay, great. I'll just move on now. So things to take away from what I've just said there. Please practice the 4 different theories that I've mentioned. Consider the double diamond model, which is convergent and divergent thinking. Also, to improve your user experience and how to build and solve problems, think about it, map it out from start to finish. Why would they need this software? How are you solving it for them? How would you be user-centric? And I hope that part helps. Now, let's move
Sorry
into
to interrupt you, Mohammed. Again, we got some request that the voice is low.
Oh, sorry.
If you can just keep working
Is that
on
any
that.
better?
It's better, yeah.
All right. Apologies, everybody. I hope it's okay now. Okay. Everything okay
Yes.
now?
Yes.
Wonderful. Right. So for a moment, I want you to think about one of these 6 programs. I'm going to pick eBay, and I want you to pick one as well. So we have Snapchat, Netflix, Gmail, Audible, eBay, and LinkedIn. Now think about the following. What is the display and resolution size of this? So eBay tends to fit the screen that we're on. The quality needs to be quite high in the resolution because we're looking at products for sale and we're looking at various other features such as products to buy. Next, does it use a lot of battery or power? So for example, eBay or YouTube or Netflix, they tend to use a lot of power and it consumes a lot of battery. These apps work online or offline. For example, Audible, you download the book, it goes onto your device, and then you can use it offline as well as online. Does any of these require a login or a sign-up feature? Majority of them, yes, they absolutely do. So these are things which currently exist, but these are things that you also should be considering as you're developing and creating your website or applications. Now, again, thinking about the same system, do they use a location service? Are there any notifications that pop up on your home screen or tell you you're bidding, you've been outbidded, or the product that you want to buy is going to be ending soon? Facebook, I know, is a big one for sound alerts, which is very popular, and it helps customers engage because of the sound. Is there any camera or video function which are running with the software? For example, let's say Snapchat, you record videos, you take pictures, and you input them onto the database, which is then displayed and shown to all the different users. Are there any input functionalities? Can you search for anything? Can you enter anything? That could be chat, that could be finding something in the database. So I have to think about that. Now, if I was commissioning you and I said, right, you're part of my design team right now, we've been commissioned by Netflix and they've asked us to create some upgrades. What sort of upgrades do you think would be useful for Netflix or one of the 6 companies? How would you approach that? Would you use the models and the theories I've just said? Or how would you think about that? I want you just for a second to think, if you were in this position right now and you were asked to create this, what would you do? Excellent. Now let's move on to navigations and control, just to check that everyone can hear my voice and it's okay. Excellent. So now when we're designing a website, so for example, you're working with me now, and I've said we have a new client and they're wanting to create a new website. Things that you need to consider. Do we need a login or a sign-up page? What does the main homepage look like? What are the functions and features on it? Can we navigate anywhere? Is there any other subpages that we should be considering? What is the endpoint of the checkout page? These are 4 basic questions which I really want you to think about before creating or moving forward to do any other software or application development.
Mr. Mohammed, I'm sorry to stop you, but the participants are saying that they can't hear you well.
Oh, right. Apologies about that. Apologies.
And we are sorry about that.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Can everybody hear me now a bit better?
Guys, please, your feedback on the chat box, please. Okay, so now they can. Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed.
I apologize to everybody again about my volume. I hope you can hear me now. And if you'd like me to go back a few slides just to make sure that I give you the best value, I'm more than happy to do so. So if you'd like me to go back a few slides, please press number 1 and I will do so.
Yeah, they are saying that you can go back a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they say yes.
No problem at all. So I think I'll just go back to, right, I'll start from here just to make sure that everybody can hear me okay.
Yes.
So now, for example, I want you to think that you're working with me. And as a consultant, we've been asked by a company such as Netflix or eBay to improve their software. They want us to look at it and to add better features and functions for the user experience from this. So please pick one of the 6 companies that we have in front of us right now. So that's Gmail, Audible, Netflix, eBay, LinkedIn, and Snapchat. Excellent. Now we're going to look at the different things that are in with these programs. So how does the programs that we've chosen use the following? What are the display and resolution, this and the size? What are we looking at on eBay? It's very important for the resolution and the size of the products which are for sale to be visible. Netflix, it needs to have a clear video for the users to enjoy their videos. However, the power and battery use when we're looking at Netflix is going to be substantially higher due to the videos and the playback which is done. Most of these apps will require online connection to Wi-Fi. Finally, can we use it offline? With the likes of Audible, we can download programs and then we can listen to them later. Can we implement any other things into that? For example, in Netflix, you can also do this. Last but not least, do we require a login or a sign-up feature? Now, again, I want you to think about the program at hand. Does it have a location service? Does it need that? Does it have any notification bars? For example, eBay saying an item that you've bidded for you've been outbidded, or pay for an item at hand. And Snapchat, a friend has messaged you. Are there any sound alerts that are inside there? Are there any camera functions or features? So that's taking a video or a picture or even receiving one. Then finally, it's input features. So that's such as, can I search for something? Can I talk to somebody by typing in or entering something? These are things which we should consider. If you are taking part in the interactive part, please write yes or no against each one of these. Now, as you're working with me, for example, I would say to you, right, so we've just been approached by Netflix. They've asked us to do a project where they want us to improve their platform. For a moment, I want you to think about, how would you improve Netflix? Would you use the theories which I provided to you beforehand? or what sort of things would you put together in order for you to upgrade Netflix? I understand that, again, there's a lot of students here, but this is just something to consider when we're working in this space. Now, let's move on to navigations and controls. I'm going to go back to your software and the one that you are designing. So the one that I've chosen is the Sport Virtual application. In this, I would need users to have a login or a sign-up page so that they can save their information and create a profile. Does your website application need a homepage? The one that I would be creating would have a homepage. This homepage would say the latest news and information about what's going on in basketball local to them. Are there any sub-pages from the homepage? So you'd have pages such as an e-commerce checkout, maybe a page about where to find better coaches, another page on a database entry so people can store information on their latest plays, input information, so other people can connect with them. Is there any checkout or endpoints? So an endpoint would be, I would like a coach. I click on the coach, I click buy now, and I've just ordered a session. And then I can have a video one-to-one session with the coach, and that could be a checkout. Or in simplistic terms, you go onto a website, you click on a t-shirt, you click buy now, it goes to your basket and you check out. So whenever you're designing a website, just always think of these simple things, yet they'll help you design the steps and stages from start to finish. Now, when we're looking at creating any form of application, we have to think about these three things. Will your users be in a rush when using the platform? For example, there's a difference between when they want to use Netflix and when they want a taxi using Uber. So these are sorts of things which you should be considering. When will they be using or accessing your platform? Is it a leisure thing? Is it a daily thing? Is it a pastime? Is it a development, personal development, business development? These are things that you also should be considering. And finally, what features would support that interaction without complicating the process? So for example, if you wanted to add some features such as sound, a few interactive elements, such as when you click on something, an item moves, or you could add an emoji when in chats. These are all nice, simple features. However, we don't want to complicate the process. We don't want to overwhelm the users. We want to make it as simple as possible, yet as effective as possible. Another very important point is always keep your content to a minimum. It's absolutely great having an all singing and dancing website or an application. However, if it's too complicated for the users, they won't use it. Now, I want you to think of one of the biggest websites and most successful websites in the world, and then think about it. How much does it have going on? Google. If you go onto your platform now, onto your Explorer, and you enter Google, it's so simple. It's literally one bar, and you enter in there and you search and get results. Now, Google is $1 billion plus company. Why haven't they moved from just having a search bar? Why don't they have hundreds of different tools and panels and so on? It's because they understand that we need to keep the attention span of the user focused on the product at hand. So you enter what you want, you search, you find it. Google's job is done. Uber, I would like a taxi. I click my location, I tell it where it is, it tracks the taxi, it comes, picks me up, it drops me off. Very simple. Just Eat. I would like food. I select the takeaway, I select what I want, I buy it, it tells me how long it's going to take, the food gets delivered. Very, very simple. This is, again, I would like to emphasize on the simplisticness of the nature of these programs, but the success that these programs and these companies have had, which I would like you to have as well. Now, this is something very basic which I put together. This is and it's just an ease of understanding. So what we created here with the bag, this is a swipe. So if you like it, you swipe it, and then it saves and stores it. It then puts the preference data into a category system such as an outfit. When you're happy with that, you can click add to basket. It will go to the basket. What you want, you can click on the boxes. You can buy it now, and that's it. Whenever you design anything, remember, white backgrounds are nice and clean. It enables the users to see what they're looking at. Less is more. Make sure that you have the navigation points to go backwards and forwards, and that the users can go easily through the process many times without ever having to leave or restart the website or application. Now, the reason we use icons and less words is this becomes universally acceptable. So we can have a system where we have arrows, we have the home icon and so on. And this gives us the ability when we are needing to translate or use different APIs to change the language for various users, we don't have to because the icons do the work for us. In this day and age, the icons are universally understood. This means that users everywhere in the world, you can show them an icon of a homepage. They know that's go to homepage. An icon of a telephone or a envelope, that means contact us, and so on and so forth. The second part in this, I would say, is keep it simple yet straightforward. Going back to Google, you see it, there's a search bar, you know what to type in that search bar, and then you'll get your results. This is simple, it's enter, move forward. Now, when you are designing, make sure you keep a lot of space in between the different parts. So for example, we have the product, we have the space underneath and information, and then any backwards or forward tools. This means that the users aren't clicking and overlapping by trying to click on back and it's taking them forward or so on and so forth. Remember, just less words, more icons, and more spacing. Excuse me. Now, fail points. I mentioned this earlier, and in my consultancy, this is something that we do a lot. I'll talk about this a bit before I go into it. So whenever I go to a company and I have a look at their website or their application, I find a lot of them like to integrate and implement a lot of different pages and resources and information, but one thing they don't consider is the more moving parts you have, the more problems that you're going to face and encounter. So reducing these and keeping them very simple, this reduces the amount of failure points that you have. The more different parts and transitions that you have, the more development, care, and attention that you're going to need with each part of the program. So let's get into it and let's learn a bit more about it. So touching on some failure points, a login. So if a user wants to log in, so I've created this wonderful app, you've come to log in and you forgot your password. As a developer, we forgot to put forgot password, reset password. We didn't create the pages for that. We didn't do that. We didn't think about that. Now that's a problem. Now the user can't get in, they can't access the application, we've just lost a user. So it's very important that we consider that when having a login or a sign-up feature. What are the users going to be facing and encountering, and how do we support them through that? Transitions between pages or gateways. If you have nice animations or interactive screen changes or just different parts of navigation, keep it simple. Because if you have a nice fancy, moving part when someone clicks on something, this thing moves, then maybe the person's mobile phone or desktop is slow. And then when they do that, they have a delay or the screen or the website crashes. So it's important when you do this to think about that and to reduce the amount of energy which is going to be needed in order, or processing power, sorry, would be a better word, in order to move various parts or pages back and forwards in their transition. Customization portals. So I've created an application, and on there the users are able to have excuse me, customers are able to have facial recognition technology where it can look at your face, it can read the color of your skin, it can look at your eyes, your hair, and it can say, right, okay, but according to the AI, these sorts of clothes will match you because of your face and your skin and so on and so forth. Now, when we do that, if you don't have cookies enabled or a cloud storage to access that information or to save that information, you will encounter another problem, and you will be facing a point where people create logins, but then when they go on there, their information isn't there. And it's very frustrating for a user to have created this and taken the time to do it, to then go back and find that their information hasn't been saved. So I would really hope that you consider these things when you're looking at anything. I would say in the early stages, it's better not to have it, to learn about it and to test it, instead of going ahead and developing it and doing it and then facing a lot of failure points very early on. Now, does your program require access to Wi-Fi or a data connection to access any databases that you may have? If so, maybe you can think of some downloading. So create some space on the app so that they can download, whether it be a video or a picture or something as such, so that they can access that at a later time. I know I talked a very lot there about failure points, but it's very important that we understand it and that we recognize the things that could go wrong and we take the steps to ensure that they don't. Now, there's two types of development. There's responsive and adaptive. With responsive, this is one single platform. This one single platform, it's the same everywhere. With adaptive, it changes according to the different platform, whether it's mobile phone, whether it's a desktop computer. It makes the screen and the resolution change to ensure that they can be best displayed for the user. I just saw someone raise their hand there. Is everything okay there?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes, we got all well.
Okay. So we're going to touch very quickly now on user interface and user experience. So user experience is the customer journey. User interface is what you are looking at, what you're seeing. A product always starts with the experience, then the interface follows it. It's important to have both of these to ensure that your platform can be the best product that you can possibly create. Now, look and feel. So in order for you to create anything, it's very important that you do design research first. Then have a look at your branding and graphic development. And then have a user guide or a storyboard that's having different stages. Design it, draw it out. Like I said, get a pen and paper or a whiteboard and just take your time and design it and go through it. You might have to do it multiple times. You might get it right the first 4 or 5 times that you do it. Now let's look at an example of that. So, sorry, just before we go into that, I want you to just think about for a second the application that you thought about in the early stage. Is this going to be customer related or business related now for what we've learned? What format do you want it in? Do you want it to be a website, an application, or all three as an adaptive or responsive application or software? Now we understand the basics of what our tools are. If we were to create a basic version of this, what would it look like? What would the software entail? How many pages would it need? Can you draw it in simple steps? What would your average user's time be? So let me talk about that just a little bit more. Excuse me. So a basic version of a coaching app, it would be an application that has a login screen. Then we'd go to a home page, then a contact point, and then a checkout. So that's 4 pages. Excuse me. Can we draw it? We most likely could. And the way you draw them is you just keep them very, very simple. You draw them on paper first, Then you can go onto a prototyping tool and you can lay them out step by step. Thinking about the average user's time. So if we think of, let me think, Facebook, you'll be on Facebook for a few minutes to a couple of hours, depending on which part of the Facebook platform that you go on. Again, you could look at tools such as Netflix. Again, this is something that you could be on there for hours. And then it just depends on the nature of your program and why you've created it, which is vital. Now, this is a very basic wireframe that I put together for this presentation. So as we're drawing our application, we can put our product in there. We can have the various different points. This is just a very basic tool that I put to draw on here just for an example. You don't need to be a world-class artist. You don't need to be drawing Picasso's work. It's just giving you an idea of the basic steps of where and how your application is going to work. Once you understand the different buttons that you press, where it's going to take you and what it's going to do, this will assist you into going into something a bit more advanced. So now, for example, say we've drawn a basic application. We can then move on to something called system design. That's starting from where your customers come from, your users, or how are they active? Are they purchasing or just browsing users? What you're doing with their data? Can we use machine learning to support that data? Do we send any add-ons to them to close the sales to make them a purchase user instead of just a browsing user? We then move on with their content and then, their data. That data can be used for various things, or it can be used to support what adverts are going to be given to them. YouTube, they use a very similar model to this. Now, programs and programming language. Just to make sure that everybody can hear me okay and everybody's still following, please just let us know in the chat if everything's okay.
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you very much. So I had a question about which platform I would recommend you start on. Now, these all here are very interesting platforms. I would recommend, if you want to go into development, to look at Python. Python is probably one of the best ones to start on. You can make basic programs on this, but you can also go all the way to artificial intelligence. You can merge these different languages together. You can use them for front and back end. I'm not going to go into these languages too much or for too long. However, I would consider that you look at these languages, you understand them, and then you take your time to see which one works best for you as an individual. Some people work better as a back-end developer. Some people work better as a front-end developer. Some people are a full-stack developer. That means they know the front and the back end. I'll just give you enough time so that you can take a note of these different websites, these different languages. Now, prototyping tools. So me personally, I spend a lot of time on a program called Just in Mind. Just in Mind is a program which enables you to design wireframes. It's the picture that you can see there. On the left, however, these are names of other programming tools, prototyping tools, excuse me, these are prototyping tools, which enable you to design from wireframes now into graphics. So this is where your artistic skills and graphics really need to get better. What I showed you before in the wireframing part, that was an example of how it doesn't have to be anything advanced. You're just doing a basic idea. Once you've got the basic idea and you understand the system, we now have the different steps and stages that will take us through the process of application. Once you have the knowledge of that, then you know which languages to best use in doing so. If you are early stage in this, I would suggest that you work with developers or you become a developer yourself and then you move on to this. Or if you want to do UI and UX development, this is something that you should be looking at. So I'll give you a moment now just to look at the different programs, to take any notes if you'd like. Again, these sort of tools here, I use this a lot. I use this for various forms